There's one specific item that Dollar Tree employees told customers, with complete confidence, was gone permanently, never coming back. A closed chapter in this store's history. I heard that answer myself, more than once, from different employees at different stores, and every single time it was delivered the same way. Flat, certain, and without even a moment of hesitation. There was no suggestion that the item might return later. There was no warning that the answer could change. There was no invitation to check back next month. The message was simple. That era was over. This year, that answer turned out to be wrong, not slightly wrong, not wrong with some technicality attached. Genuinely, factually wrong, confirmed directly by the company's own leadership on an actual investor call. The same $1 price that shoppers had been told was finished. And the same kind of value that many customers assumed would never return, suddenly became part of a major anniversary campaign. I did real research to verify every single detail in this video before bringing it to you. I checked company statements, retail reporting, the timing of the promotion, the specific products involved, and pricing comparisons from other retailers. I did that because a claim this big deserves more than a quick scroll through social media before anyone repeats it as fact. It is easy to see a photograph of a low-priced item, read a dramatic caption, and assume the entire story is accurate. It is much harder to confirm exactly what the company announced, when the promotion ran, which products were included, and whether the price was truly available in stores. So stick with me through this whole story, because the actual comparison at the center of this comeback, what this item used to cost, what it cost during the anniversary event, and what a similar-looking version can cost elsewhere, genuinely surprised me when I looked into it properly. I think it will surprise you too. More importantly, this story says something interesting about how a major retailer is trying to balance its current financial reality with the identity that made millions of people loyal to the brand in the first place. Let me set up the full context first, because understanding why employees were so confident this item was gone forever requires understanding exactly where Dollar Tree came from as a company. For 35 consecutive years, starting from the moment this company was founded all the way through 2021, Dollar Tree's entire business rested on one single unbroken promise. Everything in the store cost exactly $1, not $1 and some change depending on the item. Not $1 for most products and more for a selected few. Not $1 before tax in one department and a different price somewhere else. $1 every time for every single item in every single store for 35 straight years. That kind of consistency is extremely unusual in retail. A shopper could walk through the doors already knowing the basic rules. If an item was on the shelf, the price was not a mystery. You did not need to compare labels, check a special section, or wonder whether the item in your hand belonged to a higher-priced category. That promise was not just a pricing decision buried in a spreadsheet somewhere. It was the actual foundation the entire company was built on. It was baked directly into the name itself, and it shaped how millions of shoppers thought about value for decades. Dollar Tree was not simply another discount store that happened to offer inexpensive merchandise. The $1 price was the brand. It was the expectation customers carried into the store, and it was the reason many people used the retailer for small household purchases, party supplies, seasonal decorations, snacks, school supplies, cleaning products, and everyday basics. Then in 2022, for the first time in the company's entire history, that price rose to $1.25. I want you to really sit with how significant this felt at the time, because it was not received as some minor forgettable adjustment that people simply shrugged off. Customer reaction was described as overwhelmingly negative, genuinely angry in a lot of cases, with shoppers expressing real disappointment that felt less like ordinary price increase grumbling and more like a sense of betrayal. For longtime customers, the change seemed to break something central to the store's identity. This was not just an extra 25 cents on one item, it was a change to the promise attached to every item. The difference between $1 and $1.25 may look small when you consider a single product, but it becomes much more noticeable when a shopper is buying 10, 15, or 20 items at once. That additional amount adds up quickly, especially for people who visit discount stores, precisely because their budgets leave very little room for unexpected increases. Some customers went as far as calling for an outright boycott. For a lot of longtime shoppers, particularly people on a fixed income who had built genuine trust in that $1 promise over years or even decades of regular shopping, this did not register as a simple price increase. It felt like the breaking of an actual commitment, the kind of thing that is genuinely hard to just forgive and move past, and once that first increase happened, prices kept climbing from there. Dollar Tree began rolling out $3 and $5 items throughout the store, stacked right alongside that new $1.25 baseline. More recently, some locations have reportedly carried items priced as high as $10. a number that would have seemed almost unthinkable at this particular store just a few years earlier. Employees themselves started openly joking about it on public retail discussion forums, and one nickname in particular caught on among both staff and shoppers alike. No longer a Dollar Tree. It was half amused and half genuinely frustrated. A joke like that does not spread and stick, unless a whole lot of people, employees very much included, are quietly thinking the exact same thing. The nickname captured the feeling that the company had changed faster than its name, and reputation could change with it. Customers still walked in expecting the old Dollar Tree, even as the merchandise pricing structure and product assortment increasingly reflected a more complicated retail model. Employees had to explain those changes face to face, often to shoppers who were already disappointed before they reached the register. Given all of that context, years of steady one-directional price increases with absolutely no sign of slowing down or reversing, it made complete rational sense for employees to tell customers, with total confidence, that real $1 pricing broadly returning simply was not happening. It was not really a lie in the moment they said it. It was an honest, reasonable reading of a trend that showed no evidence of ever going the other direction. If a company raises prices after 35 years, expands into $3 and $5 products, and begins carrying items priced even higher in some stores, the normal assumption is that the old system is gone. Retailers rarely reverse a structural change simply because customers miss the previous version of the business. Once shoppers have adjusted to paying more, companies usually have a strong incentive to leave the higher price in place. That is exactly why the later announcement was so unexpected. So here is what actually happened, and this is the part where that confident answer turned out to be wrong.
To mark the company's 40th anniversary,
Dollar Tree's own chief executive, Michael Creedon, confirmed directly on a call with investors that customers would see the dollar price point return to stores. This was the exact kind of formal setting where a publicly traded company has to be extremely careful about exactly what it promises to a room full of financial analysts. His words were that the move was being done specifically to honor what he called the heritage and foundation of the brand. That wording matters. The company was not pretending that the last several years had never happened. It was not announcing that every product across every store would permanently return to $1. It was recognizing that the original price point still carried emotional and commercial meaning for customers, and that the brand's history could be used as part of an anniversary campaign. I want to be completely clear about what that actually means. This was not some marketing team quietly testing out a limited promotional gimmick with no leadership involvement. This was the single top executive of the entire company, on the record, in a formal investor setting, announcing a genuine return of the exact pricing that employees across the country had been telling customers, with total confidence, was permanently retired. That does not necessarily mean the old Dollar Tree has returned in every possible way. It does not mean every product is once again $1. It does not erase the price increases that occurred after 2021, and it does not guarantee that the company will maintain the anniversary pricing forever. But it does prove something very specific. The $1 price point was not as permanently dead as many people believed. The specific item at the very center of this whole comeback story, the one this entire video is really about, was something called the Royal Norfolk Blue Burst Dinnerware Collection. These were plates with a handcrafted, reactive glaze finish that genuinely resembles far more expensive boutique stoneware you would typically expect to find at a specialty home goods retailer rather than a dollar store. These particular plates had been selling at $1.50, which was already a genuinely reasonable price for something with that kind of visual finish and quality. During the anniversary promotion, though, the price actually moved backward, dropping all the way down to a full $1. I want you to really absorb how unusual that is in retail. Prices almost never move backward like that, not for an entire established product line, not without an enormous deliberate business reason sitting behind the decision. Once a company raises a price and customers have already adjusted to paying it, there is rarely a direct financial incentive to reverse course voluntarily. That is exactly why this specific reversal stood out enough that the company built an entire 40th anniversary campaign directly around it. It is also why customers who remembered being told that $1 products were gone forever reacted so strongly. The announcement did not merely bring back a lower price. It challenged the idea that retail trends always move in one direction. The product had already crossed from $1 to $1.50, and the wider company had moved to a higher baseline. Yet for the anniversary, the same type of item returned to the old price point, even if only as part of a temporary promotion. And here is the comparison that genuinely stopped me in my tracks when I was researching this video properly rather than just repeating a headline. A similar style of glazed, indigo-toned dinnerware at a store like Pottery Barn or Sur La Table runs anywhere from around $130 all the way up to nearly $200 for a comparable set. I want to be completely fair and transparent with you here, because I do not want to oversell this. That is not a perfectly precise apples-to-apples material comparison. The manufacturing processes and materials involved are almost certainly different in meaningful ways between a $1 mass-produced plate and a $200 boutique set crafted by hand. The number of pieces in a set can also vary, and higher-end products may include differences in weight, finish, packaging, quality control, and long-term durability. So I would not tell you that a $1 plate is automatically identical to a luxury dinnerware set. That would be an unfair claim. The more accurate comparison is about the look, the color family, the decorative finish, and the kind of visual effect the product is designed to create. The style these plates were clearly designed to echo really does carry that kind of price tag at higher-end retailers. Walking away with even a similar visual look for $1 instead of well over $100 is a genuinely dramatic gap by any reasonable standard. It is worth taking seriously rather than dismissing outright as too good to be true. A shopper who wants a coordinated table setting might be able to create a very different atmosphere without making the kind of investment required by a boutique collection. The anniversary promotion did not stop at just that one dinnerware line either, which is worth mentioning to give you the full picture. Mediterranean-style dinnerware, also normally priced above the everyday baseline, dropped to that same $1 mark during the same event. This was not purely decorative either. It was specifically described as microwave and dishwasher safe, meaning genuinely practical, everyday dishware you could actually use regularly, rather than something you would keep tucked carefully away and never touch. That practical detail matters. When a retailer lowers the price on a decorative object, the discount may be interesting but not necessarily useful. Dinnerware is different. If a plate can be used in the microwave and placed in the dishwasher, it becomes part of a normal household routine. It can be used by families, students, people setting up a first apartment, or anyone who wants to replace mismatched dishes without spending a large amount of money. It also means the promotion was not only about nostalgia. The $1 price point connected to the company's history, but the products themselves were aimed at present-day needs. The anniversary campaign used the old price as an emotional reminder, while attaching it to items that customers could actually use in their kitchens and dining rooms. I do need to be completely upfront with you about timing here, because it directly affects how useful this specific information is, depending on exactly when you happen to be watching this video. This particular anniversary promotion ran through August 6th, with availability specifically described by the company as while supplies lasted. Inventory varied meaningfully from store to store. If you are watching this well after that date, please treat this story as solid, verified confirmation that the reversal genuinely happened, backed directly by the company's own public statements, rather than a guarantee that this exact $1 pricing is still sitting on a shelf waiting for you today. Remaining stock at individual locations is entirely possible depending on how quickly each store worked through its own allotment, but I would genuinely rather you go in with accurate expectations than assume every single store nationwide still has this exact pricing available indefinitely. Now, I want you to think for a second about what it actually takes for an employee to tell a customer, with complete, unwavering confidence, that something is never coming back. That kind of statement does not typically come from a personal guess or a hunch. It comes from actual internal understanding, something communicated clearly enough within the company that it becomes the standard, practiced answer every employee gives without a second of hesitation. I heard that exact answer myself, more than once, from different employees at different locations, and it never once wavered in tone or certainty. There was no hedging in how it was delivered, no probably not, or I am not totally sure. Just a flat confident no every single time, regardless of who happened to be asking or which specific store I was standing in at that moment. I think it is genuinely worth sitting with what this whole reversal represents, beyond just the mechanics of one plate collection getting cheaper for a few weeks. A major, publicly traded national retailer, one that had spent the better part of 3 years steadily moving in the opposite direction, stood in front of investors and openly acknowledged that shoppers missed the old $1 identity badly enough to justify building an entire 40th anniversary campaign specifically around bringing a piece of it back, even temporarily. That says something real about where genuine pressure currently sits in this part of the retail world. Shoppers are paying attention to prices. They remember what products used to cost. They compare stores, read labels, discuss deals online, and notice when a familiar value proposition starts to disappear. A retailer may change its pricing model for business reasons, but it cannot always assume that customers will emotionally accept the change without consequences. This is a small, deliberately temporary reversal within a much larger, ongoing trend of prices creeping steadily upward. It would be inaccurate to present it as proof that all prices are returning to the old system. But it is a completely genuine reversal, backed directly by the company's own public statements rather than a rumor loosely repeated online without anyone ever checking it. It also shows why words like never and forever deserve caution in retail. A product can be discontinued, a price can be retired, or a display can disappear for months. That does not always mean the decision is permanently locked. Companies respond to anniversaries, customer demand, seasonal promotions, inventory needs, and competitive pressure. The correct conclusion is not that every discontinued item will return. The correct conclusion is that certainty should match the evidence. I want to be completely transparent with you about exactly how I put this particular video together, because transparency matters even more in a content space that is so often full of second-hand rumors repeated confidently as though they were settled fact. Every single claim in this video came from checking multiple, independent sources against each other. That included actual company statements pulled directly from investor call coverage, retail reporting on the anniversary sale that included specific dates and specific item names rather than vague generalities, and genuine price comparisons I verified myself rather than simply repeating from a single unconfirmed source, where I was not fully certain about a specific detail, such as exactly how long remaining stock might last at any individual location. I tried to say so directly and honestly instead of presenting an optimistic guess as confirmed fact. I also want to acknowledge honestly that a video like this genuinely takes longer to put together than one built on a single unverified tip repeated without question. Confirming a company's statement means tracking down real coverage of the investor call itself, not just a headline vaguely referencing it secondhand. Checking a specific price comparison means verifying it against more than one source rather than trusting the very first number I happen to come across. That extra layer of checking is slower, and it occasionally means sitting on a story a little longer before I am comfortable putting it in front of you. But I think that trade-off is worth making every single time, especially for a claim this specific and this significant. The goal is not to make every story sound more dramatic. The goal is to make sure the excitement is based on something that actually happened. Before I wrap this whole video up, I want to briefly address something that comes up constantly in comments on channels covering this exact space, since it is directly relevant to this whole conversation about what is and is not actually true at this particular store. Does Dollar Tree currently offer any kind of official senior discount program? Based on the most current verifiable information available, as I am putting this video together, the honest answer is still no. Unlike certain other retailers, Walgreens for example, which offers a documented discount of roughly 20% for shoppers 55 and older on a specific designated day each month, Dollar Tree simply does not currently have an equivalent, dedicated program of its own. I know that is probably not the answer some of you were hoping to hear, especially right after some genuinely exciting confirmed news elsewhere in this same video. But I would rather tell you that clearly and accurately than let a rumor keep circulating in the comments and have you show up at a store expecting a discount that genuinely is not there waiting for you. And that brings us back to the main point of this story. The Royal Norfolk Blue Burst Dinnerware collection was not just an attractive plate at a low price. It became evidence that the company's old price point could return under the right circumstances. Employees who once said the item in the $1 era were gone forever were responding to a trend that appeared permanent. The anniversary campaign proved that the trend was powerful, but not completely irreversible. Now I want to ask you directly for something, because putting together research like this, genuinely checking sources, rather than simply repeating whatever happens to be circulating that particular week, takes real time and real effort. It is exactly the kind of content I want this channel to keep producing more of going forward. If getting accurate, actually verified information like this matters to you, hit subscribe right now. That extra layer of careful checking is precisely what separates a channel like this one from a channel built entirely around repeating unconfirmed rumors as though they were established fact. Hit like on your way out as well, and I genuinely want to know directly in the comments whether your own local store still has any of that anniversary dollar pricing remaining on the shelves. Tell me which products you found, whether your location carried the Blue Burst plates or the Mediterranean-style dinnerware, and whether the price was still marked at $1 when you visited. Local reports can help create a clearer picture of how quickly the promotion moved through different areas, especially now that the official promotional period has ended. If you know someone who firmly assumed this specific item, or this store's $1 days more broadly, were permanently and irreversibly gone for good, send this video their way. It turns out the employees who told them that were not actually wrong about the overall trend. They were simply wrong about whether that trend was truly locked in place forever. That is honestly a distinction worth remembering well beyond just this one specific story. The most confident claims about something being gone for good are sometimes only claims about how things have gone so far, not real guarantees about how they will stay in the future. In retail, a discontinued price can return for an anniversary. A product can reappear through a new shipment. A brand can temporarily reconnect with the promise that made it successful in the first place. At the same time, it is important not to turn one temporary promotion into a promise that the entire past has returned. The $1 anniversary pricing was real, but it had a defined window and limited availability. The broader pricing structure still exists, and the company still operates in a world where costs, competition, and customer expectations continue to change. The most accurate way to describe what happened is both simple and significant. The old price point came back, but it came back as a deliberate, limited reminder of the brand's heritage. And perhaps that is why this story resonated so strongly. Customers were not only excited about saving 50 cents on a plate, they were reacting to the return of a familiar idea, the idea that a store could make a clear promise about value, and keep that promise in a way people could understand. So if you are watching this before the promotion has completely disappeared from your area, check your local store while supplies last. If you are watching later, do not be discouraged if you cannot find the exact items at the anniversary price. The most important confirmed information is that the reversal happened. The leadership acknowledged the importance of the old price point, and the idea of a $1 item was not as permanently retired as many people believed. Thanks for sticking with me through this entire deep dive, for caring about the difference between a rumor and a verified announcement, and for understanding why the details matter. Keep sharing your local findings in the comments. Stay careful with claims that sound too absolute, and I will see you in the next one.